Let me patch you in. Awesome. How's your audio?
It's good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. You have such a professional setup, and like, look at my background compared to yours.
Oh, come on. It's all about the content. Yeah.
So uncool.
No, stop. It's all about the discussion and the tips and the things that our audience is going to learn from you today. And so I'm so excited. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm so glad that it worked out, and I'm sorry about last time.
No worries. Yeah, I completely understand. Trust me, I have 3 fur babies. Well, 2 fur babies. We're taking care of our in-laws' other 2, so it's actually 4 fur babies. So I'm running around sometimes. Yeah.
Oh my God. How have you been, Zen?
Oh, busy. Well, I don't like to say busy. It's the wrong word. I'm like on back-to-back meetings all the time, which is great. And yeah, I'm just so fired up about this ClosedWon sales show because I get to learn from awesome entrepreneurs, awesome founders like yourself. What about you? How's everything?
Yeah, it's good. We've been well, and yeah, excited about this. It's such a treat on a Friday. I'm excited.
Did you bring a drink with you or a water?
My water. My water.
I have like coffee for a picker upper and then my water as backup.
Big water. I want to start drinking like a gallon a day. Is that right? Is that how much?
It works. I've done it before. Oh my God. Yeah.
You feel amazing when you do it?
I do. I broke out like in the first week, like literally my face. It was just releasing all of the toxins. But after that, yes, absolutely feel great.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm totally intrigued.
All right, so let's get started. Here we go.
Okay,
the countdown is here. Okay, let's see. There, right there. So you've built your MVP. You got your first paying customers. You even generated $20,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Now you're ready to fundraise. Now tell me, how would you raise $2.1 million in seed funding? Let's go. Hey, what's up, everybody? Zen here, founder of ClosedWon. Welcome to the ClosedWon Sales Show. On today's agenda, first, I'll share sales tips from Josh Gillespie. He's been an entrepreneur, an enterprise account executive at PandaDoc for over 8 years, and he will share real tips to help you close deals as a first-time founder. Next, I will reshare a video I've curated by Bishop TD Jakes. He will share a special type of skill that is pretty hard to learn, but if you do, it will pay off forever. After that, I have a very, very special guest. Amanda Greenberg is here to share how she closed $2.1 million in seed funding. So sit back, relax, open your mind. Let's learn the lifestyle made for bosses. So whether you're an SMB rep or a first-time founder, here's what you need to do in order to close deals in 2 weeks. What are 3 tips you would give an SMB rep in order to close those transactional deals in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think the first is figure out if their interest in your product is exploratory versus there's a real initiative in place for their job, right? Like at the end of the day, we all have a job to do that probably is a laundry list of 10 to 20 tactile activities that need to be done. And if we're not one of them, we're kind of just wasting their time and wasting ours. So how do we get on that list? Ideally, we're already on it, right? Ideally, we can correlate what we're selling to one of their laundry list items. And so there's a number of ways to do this, either just by doing some research online, looking at a company's 10K or something to see what are their actual initiatives in place at a corporate level, or obviously the personal level, just calling them and saying, hey, like, what's your job? Like, what are you working on? And then seeing if somehow we can marry our service or a product to what they're actually doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once they have figured out that, okay, this is an initiative, I was hired to find another software to increase our closing ratio, and it's the document flow that's our bottleneck. What's another tip that you could give an SMB guy? So
cool.
Identify.
Well, yeah, and then qualify the heck out of that initiative, right? So if you think there's initiative in place, okay, what is the initiative? What's the deadline? What's your role? Who else is involved? What's the overall project? Maybe the projects around, sales efficiencies, right? So how can we tie into that? What other applications are you evaluating? You need to do like a deeper level of like company qualification, I would say, versus like product discovery and product qualification. I think we're quick to try to jump into the app and show how it works and what it does without really digging a level deeper into who we're talking to. That way, once we get all that really deep information, then when we do finally, give them a product demo or get them to think about us, we can hit them at every level really deeply, right?
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of qualifying blogs out there. There's bands and
and that's actually one of my guiding principles. Is not really to think of it as qualifying, but to actually operate on a disqualifying principle, right? So that's the most important thing that I was taught, I think, in my enterprise sales training was just disqualify. At the end of these sales cycles, when you win them, we know going back in time that it takes hundreds of emails, tens of calls, 20s of screen shares to get to a big deal. I can't afford to do that for every single customer. There's only, let's assume a 40-hour work week, so much time in the year, right? Like, so we really have to disqualify those who do not have initiatives in place. If they're exploratory, get them out of there and be like, you know what, man, you got to go create an initiative if you want to talk to me.
Okay. So with the SMB, and one of the lines that I've learned from Richard Harris that I kind of want to drop on this video is telling the other person, hey, listen, let's agree or commit by the end of this call that in 2 weeks, you will make a decision. It's either a yes, you will move forward with us, or no, you won't. And by just saying that one sentence, and if they say yes, then you have a clear timeline to make a decision. So that's one of the things that I want to share with new AEs out there. Make sure you're saying that at the beginning of your call.
Yeah, I think that's just like a really strong way of, setting the expectation that, like, for us on our side, because you never know what they expect on their side. And without setting a firm expectation, as we know, like they'll eke out like a year-long trial from you, right? Or every single resource they can before making that financial decision. So I think certainly on the SMB side where, your transactions are less than 10K or something. Then you got to let them know, like, hey man, like this is a less than 10K decision for you. This is the values we provide. It's going to be 2 weeks. This is my process. You cool with that? In and out. And I think that usually helps them, give them clear buying criteria too, because sometimes they need that to help operate.
My challenge in our generation is that gradually, through entertainment, through television, through media, through every way possible, we are living in a generation of the dumbing down of ideas. Because we have traded effectiveness for busyness. Statistics say, somebody ought to clap on that. We are busier than any other generation we have seen in the last 300 to 400 years. We are so busy. We are busier than a one-arm wallpaper hanger. We're just busy. You'll get it later. Don't worry about it. It'll hit you in a minute. We are just as busy as we can be, and we think because we're busy, we're effective. But I want you to challenge your schedule for a minute and ask yourself, are you really being effective, Or is your life cluttered with all kinds of stuff that demands you and drains you and taxes you and stops you from being your highest and best self? And are you substituting busyness and all the chaos that goes along with busyness from being effective? Let me tell you, a bunch of scientists got together and they began to do some research, and they begin to determine that 80% of the things we do are busy things that we do in an area that is not effective, that the average person only spends 20% of their time doing the thing that they are really gifted at, created at, passionate about, excited to do, and the rest of it is all the dismal, dumb stuff that we all have to do in order to survive. Just crazy stuff that we're doing. Wonder what would happen if we would go from doing 80% of things that are busy but not effective and 20% of the things that are really effective if we would switch those numbers around and only give 20% of our time to the things that we have to do and 80% of our time to the thing that we were created to do. Wonder what would happen to your life. Now think about it a minute. There's a lot of things you could take from me and I could make it. You could take my suit, I got another one. You could take my car, I could get another one. You could take my house, I could get another house. But when you take my time, you have taken something from me that is totally irreplaceable. We take all kind of classes from money management. We know how to manage our money. We know how to repair our houses. We're working on our hair and our bodies and all of this kind of stuff. We do everything except the most important thing is to value our time. It takes time to be creative. You were meant to be creative. You were created in the likeness and the image of a creator, and in that likeness and in that image, you have creativity. If you had time, you would be creative. But in the absence of time and with busyness and clutter and the phone ring, beep, beep, beep. You all got music playing on your phone, all kinds of stuff. And no matter what kind of song you put on it, after a while you hate to hear it, because every time you hear that sound, you know it's somebody else wanting something else from you that's taking you away from what you are gifted and creative to.
My next guest is Amanda Greenberg. She is the co-founder and CEO of Balloon. Balloon is a platform that unlocks ideas, feedback, and insights from a group in record time. Her platform achieves this by eliminating negative group dynamics, group thinking, biases, and fears. She secured $2.1 million in seed funding to build the future of insight mobility. The round was co-led with Jason Calacanis and Wavemaker partners, with participation from Luma Launch, Imagination Capital, Streamlined Ventures, XFactor Ventures, and others. So far, her company has closed Capital One, Thumbtack, and Google. Today, I am so excited to learn more from her because she will get to teach us how to raise money for our startup. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Amanda Greenberg.
Hey. Thanks, Zen.
Yay! Welcome to the show. How are you? Oh my goodness. Yes, I'm so happy you're here. I can't wait to learn from you, really.
Yay, I'm excited to learn and share and all the good stuff.
Awesome. So on our very first episode, I brought in a founder who basically built his company without any money. So today I'm going to try to do the opposite because I want to learn how you were able to bootstrap, of course, and then raise your pre-seed round and then your seed funding round. But before we get there, let's first talk about your childhood. How did Amanda become such a rock star CEO? Let's start there, okay? Because I want to learn. I know that you're from Oxford, Ohio, and I also know that you were raised by a professor and a teacher who became a guidance counselor. I love guidance counselors. My guidance counselor saved my life. I'm from Kalihi, Hawaii, so very, very big for me. But this is not about me. This is about you. Please share your story.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. You did your homework, Zen. Yeah, so yeah, my dad was a professor of anthropology. My mom was a science teacher and then became a guidance counselor from there. Had a really wonderful childhood. I think it's like the first lucky thing that happened to me. Wonderful parents who were so supportive. And I think really encouraged both of their kids to dream big, and gave us like a lot of landing pads, I would say, to do that. Really let us explore who we were. And I think as a family, we're really focused on working hard, really strong principles as a family. And my parents were very and are very just engaged, I would say, in the world. Like my dad was working when he was an anthropologist. He was a cultural anthropologist and really advocating for people who just don't have voice in court systems, in the country, and a lot around land rights. And so I think from an early age that really just infused in me interest in engagement and in voice and in listening. And that really, I think, drove a lot of the creation of the product. And then also really creative an approach. But yeah, a really wonderful childhood. Lived in the same house. My parents still live in that house. All those pieces. Yeah, were really, really great.
I want to savor that right there. Growing up in a really good home with great parents, they did all the things correctly. So I have a Filipino background, and in my culture, a lot of families raise their kids to become nurses. It sounds like a stereotype, but seriously, it's just something that like it's just expected. It's so crazy. And so I'm thinking about, okay, if I was a parent and if I was planning to have a kid, what kind of parent do I need to be in order to foster this kind of creativity? Like, how do I build a little Amanda, basically? Like, yeah, I want to know. I'm curious. I really am.
No one should a little.
What kind of examples that you could give me?
Yeah, I think I've reflected a lot on this as I've become a parent, for sure. So I have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I have thought a lot about my upbringing. I think it makes you really reflective. Like, what are things that like really made you the person you are,
right?
That you might not even notice. I think my parents were really reliable, which is something I've thought a lot about. Like every night we had dinner at the table. The house was always clean. We were always taken care of in that way. And so I thought a lot about that kind of that baseline, that foundation. And I think that order allows a lot of creative freedom to try things, to operate really well, to push yourself really hard in school. And I will say, my parents never had expectations, which I think is really interesting. My mom was always like, they both were just like, just do the best you can, which ultimately empowered me to feel like I had a lot of choice, to do well, and that like the world was really limitless. However hard I wanted to work, we're really going to drive the outcomes. So yeah, that's something I've thought a ton about with kids, with our kids, and thinking about how we parent and all those different pieces.
Yeah, I like that. I really, really like that. And so I can relate to you because my mom also didn't have any expectations of me. And so I kind of grew up like a wild child. I was the opposite with my friends. A lot of my friends are nurses now, which I love them so much. They're in Hawaii, and front lines for sure. God bless all of the frontline nurses. Yes, 100%. So I did do my homework, and I do know that you went to boarding school. And
oh my God, you really did your homework.
I did. Yeah. Well, I'm savoring the childhood because it's important. When you become or have this kind of mindset as a CEO or even just an entrepreneur, like I want to know where it's coming from. Like I want to understand, like, how do you build more entrepreneurs in this world, right? That's basically what I'm trying to understand. And so in boarding school, you measured yourself amongst other students. I want to know.
Even find this, then I'm so.
I'm not psychic or anything. I just due diligence. Why do you think you made those decisions at such a young age, like your mindset? Because there's a lot of kids out there today and they're so connected to information, and school is just not A+ right now. I'm not happy about what's going on with education. The system can be a lot better for sure. But I want to have that like guiding principle. Like, what was your mindset at that age? Like, why were you so competitive so early in that age?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think that I came out like that. I do kind of like I really do. I thought about that too as a parent a lot, and like I came out like that, and I think that I spent a lot of time trying to like not make that me, like trying to be like, I won't be as driven, or there aren't things that I want. But I remember, I grew up in a small town, and I knew that there was more out there, and I wanted to see how I measured up, like in this broader world. Like I knew where I was kind of in my town, and I wanted to see. And so, there was a pamphlet I remember came in the mail, and I looked at it, and it was of course like this, just like uber fancy like boarding school, and I was like, I want to go there in the summers. Like I just want to go see what else is out there. I want to be exposed to more. And I mean, this is where my parents were so supportive. They drove me up there like a loaded up car, and dropped me off. And I think that I think that and I think that curiosity continues. Like it's always like, what else can we do? I think it's like testing your limits and your boundaries as a person is like really living life. Like that's how I really define like a life well lived. It's like, can I do this? Maybe I can do this. Maybe I want to try this. So I think that was the whole drive. It's a theme. It's a theme in my life, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's two parts. Yes, you did come out that way, but also you were fostered like your imagination and the possibilities. Like the world is your oyster. Like, yes, sweetheart, tell me what your imagination's like. Tell me what you want. And I feel like your parents was a huge part of that mentality, and so you were competitive.
Yeah. I think it's like manifested. My mom always used to say, she'd be like, the best thing that could ever happen to you, Amanda, is if you got a B. And I would be like, no, don't say those things.
Boy.
Manifested in this weird uber competitiveness in me.
Aw, she's so sweet. I love guidance counselors.
They are.
Okay, so you started your career in behavior change. You mastered Master of Science in Public Health. You were translating research and science into programs and campaigns, which resulted in changing people's behavior. I'm curious, while working with these different groups of people, types of groups, what was your aha moment where you were like, uh-oh, we have a problem and I want to spend the rest of my life solving it?
Yeah, I know.
That's what you did.
I feel like that image of it is especially hilarious. Like I'm just like doing research, and then I'm like, oh my God, you guys, we have an issue. So I was working on like large projects. It was almost, I think it was a culmination of so many different things. So my work in public health was connected to like decision making, like buy-in, consensus, community listening. And in that work, I was getting feedback and ideas and information from experts who were distributed like all over the world. And I could never really like get what I needed out of them. I tried meetings, I tried surveys, I tried different collaboration products. And I started getting like one-off emails or calls of people being like, hey, Amanda, I have this idea, or I didn't know if this was the right thing to share here. And so I was just like, there has to be a better way. I think I'm also like really care a lot about efficiency. Like just when things don't make sense, it's like really frustrating for me. I think like I can handle any amount of work, but I can't handle like frustration. I'm just like, no, this doesn't make sense. We should just do it differently. This is a perfect example of that, where I was just like, I dug into the research, shocked to find that we're so over-optimized in the workplace for productivity and creativity and innovation and all these different pieces and collaboration, but we don't align with like research and science for how people share information and make decisions. And so I just became obsessed with it, just obsessed with it, couldn't unsee it. I had planned to go to medical school from there, with the ultimate aspiration of being like the Surgeon General. But I just became obsessed with this, and I couldn't, I haven't looked back for like one day.
Right. So it sounds like everyone has the imposter syndrome in a way. It's
Yeah.
like, right? And it's like, because I have this as well. I feel like sometimes I'm an extrovert. Most of the time I'm an introvert. Like I can't speak. It's such a weird like feeling. But
Yeah.
I know I'm outgoing. I know that I can be loud at times. I can be one of those loud voices actually
Yeah.
in
Same,
or in
same,
a party,
same,
in a
same.
party.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how does your platform actually get voices to come out, like those timid voices that are
Yeah.
they're insightful, they're thinking about it, but they have anxiety, they can't share their ideas or their insight.
Yeah, and it's oftentimes like even less like people holding back. It's just like they don't have time. There's not like space. It's like when you're in a meeting, someone asks a question or you're talking about something and things like move quickly. It's not like you can jump in and be like, hey, actually, can we go back like 3 points so I can like share this idea? So
Yeah.
there's so many logistical breakdowns too. But our platform uses a time box collaborative flow that involves like contributing. It's all around questions that are asked. So contributing responses, collaborating, voting, and then a prioritized list for leaders to be more informed from there. And in that flow, there's a number of different things that happen. One is like anonymity, optional anonymity for parts of it, time, things with time and stages so that people do have space and time to contribute without interruptions or people jumping in. And then voting in a way that eliminates groupthink. Like you don't know what the group is gravitating toward. You don't know what the leader's gravitating toward. So really deliberately built kind of, bottom up to align with the research and science in that way.
Yeah, I can totally understand the value of anonymity, because we do have our town hall meetings in the company, and most people will ask their questions as anonymous. I mean, they don't want to share their question. Some people
Yeah,
might feel like it's a stupid question, right?
totally. Yeah.
And so I want to know, like, what are some of the failures that you've faced while you were building your startup, Balloon, and how are you able to overcome those failures as a boss?
So I think so when starting a company, I mean, we bootstrapped for a while and we're very undercapitalized until we raised this round. And in some ways, it felt like that was the foundation piece, was that moment where we were really able to build and do what we wanted to do in that way. But I think there's so many learnings and challenges in growing a company. I think they happen every single day. Like, I think the whiplash of it even gets
Right.
worse as you grow the company. It's like you can have the greatest thing and then the worst thing and the greatest thing and the worst thing, like oftentimes at the same moment in a day. And that part is just wild. It is a wild ride. And I think if you haven't started a company, it's really hard to understand the extreme of that. And it's such an exercised muscle. Like I feel like when you start a company, you just get like tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher. And you start to really realize that you are like unstoppable and you become kind of like a do or die person. And with that kind of confidence of like, actually, like, look at all the challenges we've overcome, all the things we figured out, look at all the outcomes. It's like every single day you just feel that progress happen. And I think sometimes it's just like time. It's like having time and space that you have enough of a history of failures or things that haven't worked well to be like, okay, well, this has happened before and it will be okay. Has been the biggest, I think, shift for us. But
Give
there's
me an
lots of
example of that, like right there, like the one failure that has happened before, and how are you able to overcome that when you're seeing it again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like maybe a deal we were working on for a while that doesn't close, like a partnership that doesn't close. I have a recent example, which I think is interesting, which is a partnership. We have templates on our platform that are expert created, and we partner with like leaders and researchers and experts to develop them. And there was someone I really wanted to get, and we were like really close to securing them, and they were in. And then, you know, their schedule's of course really busy, and so they were like, can we push this to the summer? And I was bummed. You know, I was just like, man, like we had already done a lot of work, ready to go.
Right.
And so I just was like, I'm just gonna keep like sending updates to this person, and like just, you know, the train's moving, like jump on the train. And
Right.
then like 2 weeks after that, he came back and was like, let's do it now. Let's do it now. Like, you've proven yourself. Like, let's do it now. So I think I had enough data points to be like, if I just put enough energy in this direction, like it's gonna work. Yeah, but I mean, I think they happen on the same day all the time.
And that's actually a very good point. A lot of failures, you will see them over and over and over again. And some people, they'll see a no as a failure when really it's not a failure. It's a
No.
not right now. Let's
Yeah.
keep on sending those follow-ups, and be resilient, be persistent, be committed, be dedicated, have conviction in your product. And so eventually your partner signed up with you. And so
Yeah.
that's you, Amanda.
You know that more than anyone. It's like you just have to stay. You have to be so persistent. It's like, yeah, and like so many. I feel like when you get, you know, as I've gotten like further in the company, it's like the number of yeses that started out as nos also increases. I think that's an interesting thing. You start to see those trends, and then you feel more empowered to keep going.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Most people say no 4 times. You try to ask them, keep again and again, and eventually they'll say yes. With value provided, of course.
Yeah, right. Hey,
Hey, give me your number. Give me your number. Give me your number.
bumping this up. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the meat of the potato. Actionable tips.
Love it. I love it.
Actionable tips like that our founders can do. Let's start our way up. Bootstrapping. I know this is going to be action packed right here.
Yeah,
So
I love it.
bootstrap
Okay,
to seed, pre-seed, because you did raise your first $100,000 with Jason Calacanis, which then led you to $2.1 million, and eventually take us to the almost, that's the home run. Yeah.
Yeah. So actionable steps to get there, to get
Yes.
from pre-seed. Okay. So I mean, there's so many. So I think one is having your stuff in order. I think like when you're fundraising, you need to be fundraising, and be deliberate about it. I don't think it's like something you can kind of do in the background. So like be like, I'm going to fundraise. This is my process. This is my timeline. This is what I'm going to get done. Having all of your assets, all of your materials ready to go, I think is important. Deck, data room, information, customer references, all of that stuff really aligned. And then run a process, like a really extreme process. So like have, you know, your spreadsheet. I use Airtable. Have tasks, like hold yourself to it. And don't worry about doing everything at once. Like do a little bit, you know, every single day. I feel like these are all of Jason's tips too. So
I'm seeing everything you're saying actually, which is really funny. I'm seeing it. I know I have to break this video down because that was a lot. You literally went pop, pop, pop. And I have to cut it down. I feel like I need to like show them exactly what you meant by Airtable and being organized and having all your assets in your data room, because it is all so important. The most important, I think, is the connection to the investors themselves. How are you able to generate that? I think that's the big problem with most founders who might have good traction, but they don't know how to connect with the right VCs.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, we look back like when we had previously tried to raise, when we were like bootstrapping, and we just didn't have like the connections or the paths until, you know, we did Jason's program, and then, you know, met all those investors, and then also had Jason to make intros. And it's so true. It's like, it's really hard to run an efficient process without those introductions kind of all stacking at the same time. Like you can just, it's just challenging. It's like, you know, 3 paths to get to the person. And so I think one of the things I wish I had done earlier was really partner with founders. So founder introductions are really powerful, and founders are really open to making introductions, especially if you have really strong traction and you're a great founder and there's alignment and, one of your investors, you think that this other founder should meet. Like, I wish I had more aggressively tapped into that. I was very much like, oh, that feels weird to ask other founders to make intros to their investors, which just wasn't the right approach at all. And so I would have done that completely differently. And I think that would have opened up a lot of doors. But I think also remembering that, like, you just need like one yes to really get the ball rolling. And then, and like, the name of the game is getting a lot of no's. Like, that's the key. Like, the key is just a race to get as many no's as you can, so you can get like the one yes. And it's very, it's bizarre. It's like a weird, like, what else in life is like that? I don't know anything like that. And then I think also, I think being okay asking people really openly. And I also I know that warm intros are definitely like the way to go, but I know that more and more investors are opening their doors and being really welcoming of cold email introductions. And so I think leveraging that as well is really powerful.
Yeah. Who was that one yes that you got, and how did you get that yes with that one investor? I'm curious, because yes, you're right. Absolutely. It is that one yes, and everyone else will essentially follow as well. I have an idea, I don't know who it is, but please share with us.
So we got like, we had Jason in. So I think that was like help. I think that was like, I would consider that.
That was like the 50% yes.
Yeah, that's like the yes. And then knowing that he was going to participate in the seed round with the syndicate, I think helped. That piece just helped. And then also Wavemaker, who was our pre-seed, one of our pre-seed investors, came into our seed, and that helped as well. And then something that was really interesting for us is that we started getting yeses from, or like commitments from, smaller angels, but big named angels, 25K, 10K, 50K, 100K. And those names really moved some of the bigger checks and some of the bigger money. And I think that's, as like thinking about fundraising or additional rounds, like that strategy, I think, can be really, really powerful. So finding individuals who you think will be really interested in what you're building. Maybe they blog about it, maybe they write about it, maybe, whatever it is, maybe they've invested in like complementary companies. I think that can be a really powerful strategy.
Yeah. And how were you able to find the individual angels? Did you go to angel.co? Did you get an introduction through Jason? What was that like?
A little bit of both. So like some research, some intros. Actually, we had a couple of our angels came in who were intros from a larger investor who ended up passing, but they thought they were going to do it. So they made these intros, and then those angels came in, which helped move others. So I guess that's a piece of it. Like, you just never know where those yeses are going to come from. You don't know where that support's going to come from. So I think being open there is really, really helpful too.
Amazing. It's like it is very much like a big enterprise sales deal.
Totally is.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Because right now I'm also working with enterprise, and I know that if we get one advocate, one evangelist to say yes, that person will actually work the entire group to say yes as well. And so very, very interesting. So
it's always, human behavior, I feel like, is the same in every it's like the same in every structure.
Exactly. And so before I ask you my last question, tell our audience where to find you.
Oh, yay. So you can find Balloon at getballoon.com. And then I'm, anywhere. You can email me, Amanda@getballoon.com, Twitter, AK Greenberg, LinkedIn, wherever.
Awesome. So let me go ahead and play our last tip. Here we go. Give me a second. And there.
Sales and marketing orgs are going to hate each other because they have different objectives. And I am empathetic to both. Let me explain. Salespeople. I'm a salesman. Salespeople. One move that your marketing team can do can change everything for you. They can go 0 for 92. They can be the biggest schlemiels. You can hate them. and one activation at a conference, one video they make for Facebook, one thing, one sponsorship, one thing fixes everything. They are literally Mike Tyson, right? One punch. And that you have to respect. There's nothing you, salesperson, can do that will ever map to one excellent execution in marketing that has the same impact. Next, marketers. You're full of shit and you're fluffy and most of the stuff you're gonna do doesn't matter and you're highbrow and fuck your degrees and I don't give a shit what awards or what articles are written about how clever you are. You are not as practical. You are not in day-to-day. You are the offensive superstar of a football team, but probably more like a wide receiver because the CEO is the quarterback. So I love that you can be highly successful, and I love that everybody knows who you are. But just like wide receivers in the NFL, you're a prima donna. You're not practical. You don't get the full picture all the time. And your salespeople, AKA the offensive line, is there day in and day out, grinding, trying to clean up for mistakes you've made or misses you've had. They don't have the luxury of your budget that has no quantifiable evidence to success. And you've got to be empathetic to your sales team because they are there and there's no wiggle room. Your sales team can't say to the CEO and more importantly the CFO, well, the long-term impact of that conversation I have will do this, even though it's true. Even though I am a great salesperson because I set up sales and I'll have a sales call that's actually not even about the sales call. It's about what I'm going to try to do with that person in a year, but I'm only justifying to myself. As a salesperson wearing that jersey, you've got to make sales and everybody's just looking at your numbers. Nobody's giving you any credit for the setup. Marketing person, you're only getting credit for the setup. Both of you need to desperately deploy empathy to the other party, and that's the organizations that win, but that's up to the head of marketing and the head of sales for her and him to be aligned at the top and create the air cover for those 83 employees or 2 employees to be able to create that cohesive unit. And that's what great coaching is, to get your offensive and defensive coordinator completely aligned to create a cohesive unit, and most people are not good at it.
All right, so how does Amanda close deals? Well, your first
answering this with you here.
No, think about the first 10 clients that you've closed, okay, and how hard that was. How are you able to close those deals? What kind of tips can you give first-time founders?
So I think really being yourself is really important, especially as a founder, especially as a startup founder. Like the early evangelist within a company is like bought into you and your vision and your mission and what you can bring to their company and their organization. So I think that's like one of the key pieces. A piece of advice I got early on from one of our advisors, who's like a sales incredible person, sales guru, was to like say what you're gonna say and then like be quiet. Like that is like really helpful. Like allow there to be uncomfortable silence, and that's been really really helpful. I think, you know, it's like when like Midwest upbringing, it's like very much like people pleasing, you know, I like want everyone to feel comfortable and happy, but obviously that's like not kind of how you work through negotiations and those different pieces. So yeah, those are my 2 pieces. So maybe, yeah, be yourself and be quiet.
Yes, silence is golden. Definitely be yourself. People can tell if you're not authentic. And so thank you so much for the tips. I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you so much
for having me on here.
Yeah, and please enjoy your drink. If you have your water still, say hi to our audience. They're on YouTube, and then I'm gonna do a close outro. All right. Closers, I hope you enjoyed learning more about Amanda and her journey to becoming a rock star CEO. Imagine a kid from Ohio, graduating from Dartmouth, studying behavioral science, reimagining the way groups collaborate and engage with one another. Now she's building a technology that is solving negative group dynamics. Just amazing. I believe that this is a journey that you can go on, and that the biggest mistake you can ever make is to dumb down your ideas, to trade in your effectiveness for being busy, mismanaging your time, because time is the only thing that you can never get back. In the following weeks, we have Tina Chang, David Smook, Nikhil Aitharaju all queued up to share their secrets on how to build a successful startup. If you like our content and if you enjoyed this show, don't forget to like and smash subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, peace. Becoming a successful entrepreneur isn't easy, but it's not impossible. Subscribe to my channel today, and together, let's figure out how to grow.
Bring that ass back like a boom, boom, boom.